town council or town planner.
So, we have some questions on this time, I will be pretty prepared, but, I'd like to have a couple of remarks. I'm such a number wonk, in mind. So I'm just gonna bring up some numbers here. And, one was based on Governor Cox's recent speech, that there were 693 fires burned nearly 114,000 acres in 2025. Sounds like a big number. And fighting the flames cost more than 103 million. And most of these wildfires have been unified. Love to hear from both our chiefs, so to speak, on some of that. It was an expensive fire season 2025. The cost to suppress the 1,161 wildfires reported in Utah last year, estimated to reach a couple of hundred million. Additional numbers by the Utah Division of Forest and Fire and State Lands. And then I'll throw in my old financial hats where I come from. And according to Munich Re, everybody who knows the reinsurance market, they pay off the time on the primary insurers, and they're basically the funders on the insurance. And Munich Re estimated that the California blaze, I know this is much higher, $40 billion, by far the largest insured loss on record. And the two biggest reinsurance companies are in Germany and Switzerland, three in Germany and Switzerland. So it's a world market, what I'm thinking, and we have to be thinking about where this all gets financed from. And we're going to talk a little bit about House Bill 48, which is a miniature of all of that, so to speak. And so if there's anything else, or oh yeah, House Bill 48, but I'll let you guys talk about that. So going down the line, Heather, would you like to say anything, or would you like to just answer the question? How would you like to?
Keep that question. Great.
You have a question too. So this one for Chief Health. What starts most wildfires and what does Louis do?
Well, you answered the first one. The most common cause obviously is human starts, and obviously that can vary year to year. But as you know, in 2025, 72% was human caused. 2024, I think, was over 55% human caused. So those primarily have to do with vehicles and mechanical issues, it could be some welding, but it also has to do with unattended campfires, the burning of debris, fireworks, plays into that as well. And I will give, this side of the county and Hideout, the town of Hideout, you've done a great job. You have the signs up, no open burning, no firework use. So you're doing that proactive approach to prevent that. The one thing that we do have that isn't human caused, we do have weather events. We do have quite a few lightning events that come through this area. It was a couple of years ago, we had a very large lightning thunder cell come through. It started two fires, one on the mountain at on Deer Valley, on the side in the new ski area, and then it ended in a larger one in Big Tree Ranch. We also had multiple calls in Tuahey, a few other places. So we were really resource depleted at that time, trying to respond to all those incidents. So lightning is also one of the issues. So when you talk about wildland, what is it? Wildland urban interface. It's basically where we, commingle with the wildland area and where we start to build. It's easier to define when you're down in the Hideout Valley, you can actually kind of see it, but all of this area up here is in the wildland urban interface and has been designated so for quite some time. In 2022, the town of Hideout adopted the Louis Code, and so that was super helpful to kind of help identify, what are the best practices to kind of build new buildings and structures within this type of environment.
Anyone else want to comment on any of that? So why don't we go to Jeremy next? Tell us, Jeremy, tell us about the emergency management plans that we have and what you're working on at the county level. And anything else along that line? What we can do.
Thanks, Mayor. So what we've been working on, the last 2 years, at the county level, and we've precipitated this down into the cities and towns as well, is we've been working on our complex emergency management plan. So it's a comprehensive plan that stays about 80% complete. And through that plan, we've been working with all of our partners, all of our stakeholders for many, many months. Having discussions about what our plan should look like, how we respond to that plan. And it's just an overall reaching plan, but in there we have 7 annexes. And one of those annexes has to do with wildfire. And it's very specific on what our roles and responsibilities are in a wildfire, how we make notifications to our public and communicate. We talked about evacuation plans, something that we've talked about here with the town. We've had great interaction with Hideout Town. We have meetings almost all the time. We have 2 meetings this week to work on some other planning procedures that I'll speak about in a minute. But the purpose of this plan is that we, as a county, can function when these situations arise. We have ways we can get resources from other areas. So when there's a disaster that happens, all disasters start in local. So if it starts in Hideout City, then it remains in Hideout City. It may grow bigger than that. And you know, you see these wildfires and these big incidents that happen, they all started somewhere, and wherever those start, that's where they finish. And so we have to work with all of our community partners, and that's the big key, is we have coordination. To coordinate our efforts through this plan. So when that does happen and we need to declare an emergency, the town knows how to do that, and they can declare it to the county. We can declare to the state if we have to, if we meet certain financial thresholds. And then it takes us into the next threshold, which declares a presidential declaration, and we declare it right through FEMA through to the president to get federal funding to come back and help support our critical infrastructure here within our town. So that's the big part of what this plan does. And then, like I say, we have 7 annexes that go on from mass care, but wildfire is one, and that's what we're here to address today. Also, what we're trying to do, we have an integrated preparedness plan. We're working on that plan right now as we speak with our consultant, Severini. And that consultant is helping us build a 3-year training plan for our folks. And that's all first responders, all elected and appointed officials. And we're gonna, throughout the county, we felt that that's important, not to just do it from a county's perspective, but when we reached out through our council, and we had this discussion a few years ago, that we wanted to reach out to our towns and cities as well. Those were important to us. And so this plan is to help you even, and the town of Hideout, to develop a plan, and we're all gonna be at different levels of our preparedness, and that's okay, because we all start somewhere, right? And that's what we wanna do, is we just start and we start progressing forward. That's what planning is about, is we start and we start seeing where our gaps are. And in that 3-year plan, we're gonna have milestones. And so one of our milestones with our preparedness planning workshop that we're gonna do tomorrow is we're gonna have an exercise it's gonna be countywide. It's gonna involve all of our cities and towns and the county, and we're gonna have an exercise, a tabletop exercise, where we're gonna sit in a room like this. And we're gonna discuss certain topics. And then the next day, we're gonna have a functional exercise, and we're gonna put some wheels in motion, so to speak. Fictitiously, but we are gonna put wheels in motion and put our plan to test, and then find out where our gaps are. The other planning part we're doing is we're going to do a elected and appointed official training. It's gonna come up here. I spoke with the county manager today, and we're gonna have an elected officials training that they can come and visit. And we're gonna talk about how we, as elected and appointed officials, and planners and citizens, we all play a part in a role. And that's what we're trying to do, is how we can mitigate those disasters. And that's what we're doing from a county level perspective.
I would say that's a lot. So thanks. I pass this over, we'll go left to you, Jonathan, and then we'll come back to Heather. Tell us about what we're doing at a town level, and how we're, addressing some of these from a code and building standpoint.
So everything starts at homeowner level. If you look around your neighborhoods, you'll find flammable materials often within close to the foundation. Hideout recently passed an ordinance update. If you have existing combustible materials within 5 feet, like mulch or something else, you can leave it there. But you cannot refresh it. Cannot refresh it. If you have a plant within 5 feet and that plant dies, you cannot replace that plant. Because what we're trying to do is lower our risk. And what we've been told by the folks in the know is the best thing we can do is nothing combustible within 5 feet, no trees within 10. So going forward, as people think about their landscaping plans, if you see your neighbors, make sure that they understand you can no longer put anything new that's combustible within 5 feet and no trees within 10 feet. This is going to be part of our effort to lower our insurance risk. Everybody knows somewhere out there on the horizon, there's an insurance problem. We've had a number of subdivisions, including in town, where they've had a 6x increase in their insurance costs, 6 times. That's a problem. And so if we don't start to get ahead of this, we are gonna be behind it, and we're gonna have a huge problem, first off, getting insurance, and secondarily, getting it at a reasonable price. So what does that mean? Please pressure your HOA, please talk to your neighbors. Nothing flammable, nothing combustible within 5 feet and no trees within 10. That means some people are gonna maybe have to pull out some plants, maybe pull back that mulch within 5 feet. But if we don't start taking action, we're gonna be vulnerable, number one. And number two, there's gonna be a question, can we even get insurance? And if so, at what cost? So as you think about that, you talk to your neighbors, please share this information. Because as the fire folks will tell us, wildfire here, wildfire there, wildfire everywhere. And so just because one person isn't gonna cut it, we need the entire community to take these kinds of steps.
It's Jonathan, before we go past the mic down to Heather, before we get to Heather, I just wanted to recognize 2 people in the back. We have, Troy Morgan, stand up, and Clinton Aaron. And I just can't say enough about Chief Hales, Jeremy, Troy, Clint, as part of the town. I feel like that we're part of our town. And for the past year, while we've been working on Wildfire, I just really want to compliment you for tomorrow we have a wildfire meeting. Trust me, at least one of these or more, 3 people will be on that call. And they've been consistently on that call every Wednesday at 1 p.m. every other week. And our wildfire committee is well represented here because 2 of the leaders are gone, but I just can't thank Bill enough. So appreciate all the help. And Heather, so tell me, Mida's huge in the state. We have obviously Mida Volunteer, your Valley Village is built on it. We'll probably have some more Mida property. What's Mida doing in the state?
So our approach is multifaceted. I will say that this project area in particular is the most involved in wildland fire planning. The others, Hill Air Force Base, they're pretty well cleared and leveled out, and we don't have to worry much about wildland up there. But we are bringing in more project areas, and so this project is actually kind of the example for the rest of the MIDA projects. And when I say multifaceted, we also address the landscape. I couldn't echo more the partnership with the Wasatch Fire District. They've really helped us scrutinize what makes sense, especially in this area and on that mountain. And for those of you that aren't very familiar with MIDA, so MIDA has land use jurisdiction on the west side of Highway 40 within our project area. So we scrutinize that a lot more deeply. The county oversees the east side for us and is really keeping a close eye on that. But so what we are doing is we look at the landscape. We look at the trees and how close they are to the buildings. One of the other things we have the privilege or maybe the benefit of is we're mostly commercial over there. So our buildings are of the highest level commercial construction, so type 1A, type 2A. So there's been lots of that has been thought through. The fire district has consulted with Xtel endlessly on what is the best system, what are the best materials, what is the best placement for all of these different things. There's also exterior fire suppression. They've implemented state-of-the-art FARs, which is firefighter air replenishment within their buildings. Also, it's the DAS systems, which is disturbed antenna systems, making sure that they can communicate. If a building comes up and gets in the way and would disrupt that communication, this would help ensure that that does not happen. The other thing that we're looking at is, you may have noticed on the mountainside itself, there's been a lot of tree and shrub clearing and dead and down clearing. That's very intentional, and that's been in conjunction with the DNR, with other state partners, with fire, wildland, experts. What makes sense, where would the fire run, and let's clear some of that out of there. We also know conifers, tend to like fire, more so than the aspens, so we're trying to encourage more aspen stands than conifers up there to help with that as well. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing from construction and landscape and, forest mitigation and health up there. I think the other thing to note is the, village. They very intentionally in their planning and design kept that down at the base of the mountain, and it's about 900 acres is going to be developed out, but the rest will be for recreating. So we're not looking to put a lot of structures and different things up there that could become potential issues for wildland as well.
Thanks, Heather. I was gonna do a little follow-up on that, but we, as part of our regular Wednesday meetings on a wildfire group, we've had a number of technology companies come in, from spatial analysis to data gathering to early warning cameras like they're using in Orange County and San Clemente and San Diego, I think, California. What might these be, and also work any comments on technology projects?
Yes, so I should mention that Extel has created a foundation. So they are spending around 600,000 a year on fire mitigation specifically. But one of the things that we're looking at this year is infrared cameras and placing those. Extel is looking to do 2 of them themselves, but partnering with folks here in the basin, hopefully potentially Hideout as well, if we can figure out where that placement may be. So we can get eyes on the valley, and the basin area up on the mountain, so we can be alerted quickly. So an initial attack can go out very quickly and hopefully get ahead of anything that would turn into something catastrophic. So that is the next step that we're really looking at technology wise.
That's great. So we're looking at it. We want to partner with Extel and MIDA and make that a trend, as well as obviously everything about these. Chief, maybe over to you. What are you thinking about House Bill 248? I know you explained that in previous meetings, but there may be some new folks here. Can you give us an update?
Sure, just so you're aware, but last legislative session, Utah passed the House Bill 48, which basically was urban interface modifications bill. What that looked for and what the intent was, it was to ensure that we increase the awareness of wildfire. But not only increase the awareness of wildfire, but also reinforce the importance of the shared responsibility each and every one of us has in living and building within the wildland urban interface area. So what does that mean? So it means more emphasis on home hardening, more emphasis on defensible space. You know, it's been often said that the beauty in this area in which we live is the landscape. We have got to keep that landscape as beautiful as we can, but we also, as we try to interact with it and build these homes within it, we have to be responsible and reasonable. You know, not only with the design of our developments, but also in the construction of our homes and making sure that we have the appropriate defensible space around them. We're using the right type of landscaping, like Jonathan mentioned, you know, trying to keep it non-combustible within the 5 feet of the home. But anyway, with House Bill 48, that increased awareness comes in an assessment. The state put together a map. Like I mentioned, in 2022, Hideout adopted the Bowie Code. When they did that, they had to identify the wildland urban interface. Fortunately or unfortunately for them, years prior, the county had already kind of designated this area as a wildland urban interface. And it just so happened that Hideout fell within that. But what the state did is they overlaid another layer, a higher hazard layer over that map. You know, what is the highest risk layer that they have? And what they did is they utilized a structure exposure score. To identify the wildland urban interface, areas have to be within a structure exposure score of 5. This high hazard map overlay is anything greater than 7 or greater. The exposure score basically goes from 0 to 8. You know, 7 is the high hazard area. So that overlay is basically taking place. What did the state use to identify that? They utilize metrics such as the topography, fuel type, fuel loading, structure density is how close the structures are to each other, temperature, weather, and historical fires as well, and also ember load. All those things were taken in as a metric to determine what this score would be and what this overlay would be. With that, once that was determined, they wanted a process of providing assessments. And that is what the state is working on now. Forestry, Fire, and State Land is putting together an assessment tool that is voluntary to the homeowners, whether or not you want your structure to be assessed. Right now, all those within that boundary will be assessed a fee. And over the next 2 years, it's a set fee. And basically it wasn't to exceed $100. Recently, they've identified that for structures 0 to 3,000 square feet, it's gonna be about $20 annually assessment. That'll be under tax rolls. From 3,001 to 6,000, it'll be $60. And then 6,000 square feet or greater will be $100. Fairly nominal, but you will see that on your tax rolls, and that'll be for 2026 and 2027. By 2028, they're gonna go to a square footage assessment fee, and then they won't just have this blanket number, and it could be significantly higher. We don't know what the costs are. Those costs are to go to administering this program of awareness and making sure that we're being as fire wise as we can in that area. So during the next 2 years, it'll be the goal of not only the fire district, county, and forestry, fire, and state lands is to assess as many homes as want to be assessed. It's not required to be assessed. If you're okay with your fee and you want to be in the high category, then you don't need to be assessed. You just will pay it. But if you want to do anything you can to reduce, as a homeowner, to reduce your exposure, your liability in that area, then we will come out, and the intent is to have members of the fire district, members of forestry, fire, and state lands, and those who have been certified to provide these assessments come and assess your home and give you ways. And the simplest way will be probably assessing your landscape and making those modifications, making sure you have proper defensible space. The bigger lifts are gonna be, what can we going from wood siding to hardyboard siding, or some other sort of structural component to make yourself more fire wise, more hard in your home.
Well, that's state code now as well, right, Chief?
Yes, this is all mandated, you know, this is in state law, and it's being facilitated by forestry, fire, and state lands, and it would be through MOU, through the county, and through the fire, and through the fire district that will actually get it.
Yeah, that's the other downstream impact is what we don't know. So we know what the state's gonna do, we have some definitions around that on the risk assessments and the surcharges, but the bigger issue might be insurance fees. So how are the insurance underwriters going to use this information positively or negatively in terms of how they rate you know, a home or a group of homes, so to speak, or a commercial building? So we have proved just by having the fire station now in town 24/7, we went from an ISO rating. ISO stands for Insurance Services Office. It's been around forever, and it provides underwriters across all insurance companies with ratings. We are now, do we move to a, property, classification?
Four,
Big four, right?
within 5 miles of the station.
So we've improved. Now that number is used by underwriters to kind of surcharge or give some credits, as they call them, some credits in the insurance industry. So, we want to be on the plus side of things, and we are now. How they use risk assessments could be even another piece of the underwriting equation, which I don't think anybody really knows about quite yet.
And I don't think we fully understand how they're going to use that. They are mandated through this House bill, through this law, to utilize this hazard assessment map as outlined by the state. And with that, if they were to, because you're within this zone or in this hazard area, if they are to increase your premiums 20% or more, or even consider dropping you, they need to provide you justification. And that is something that is mandated that you have to, they won't probably, forfeit that information. You probably have to ask them for it, but they are required to provide you the necessary information of why your premiums are being adjusted.
And maybe we should give credit to Jonathan Pike, who was here, our fleet insurance commission, last July, to talk about exactly that. Kudos, Jonathan, wherever you are, John, he goes, not Buddy. So I've got a question for two fellows at the end, Jeremy and Jonathan. And I've read about some of this, both of your kind of emergent, Jonathan, you've been the emergency management side of things. What are the ill health effects? What are the negative health effects of wildfires? I mean, is that quantified, or is that something we should be concerned about?
Well, yes, there's a whole slew of health effects from wildfires. First off, you get the particulate matter, so people with any kind of respiratory disease, asthma, a lot of allergies, that can create all kinds of breathing problems. So if you have a wildfire and you are downwind of it, and you have a breathing problem, you are likely to have a real problem. And obviously the severity of that problem is going to depend on a lot of factors, but it can trigger asthma attacks, can trigger all kinds of problems with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And so those are basic health effects. Obviously, if you get too close to the fire, you're going to get burned. That's kind of obvious. But then there are other things. If you're forced out of your home because it's now in an extremely dangerous area, what are you going to do now? And the big one is, we know what the state's going to do for the foreseeable future. We don't know what the insurance companies are going to do. And so one health effect might be you get a 6x increase in your homeowner's insurance. Or maybe if you don't mitigate in some way, maybe your insurance company decides we don't want you as an insurer. So the health effects range everywhere from financial health to physical health and others.
Thanks, John.
Just a couple things to add. And I'm asking this question as rhetorical, but when you think about what we have in our homes, think about your home right now. How many of you have hazardous materials in your home? How many of you have electric vehicles in your home, or things that run on electricity or battery powered things? When we had the fires in Anaheim, that was a big issue that they had to deal with from that perspective, is how are they going to dispose of all those hazardous materials? That puts our first responders at risk. When they go in there, it puts our community at risk as well. And so those are things that we think about. Those debris fields and so forth that come from that fire. Yeah, we see the smoke, we see the particulates that Jonathan just mentioned, but there are also those other mitigating things that come as a result of that purpose. When we ask you to evacuate and the sheriff puts out that order that you have to evacuate, it's a mandatory order that they do through incident command. The other thing that happened there is we lost a lot of water power in Anaheim. A lot of that was due to those structures burning down and the water just spraying out. So when we had our Yellow Lake fire here just a little bit ago, a couple of years ago, the actual operations section chief was the fire chief of Anaheim County. And I had the opportunity to go out to his facility and drive through there and see actually what that caused and the damage. But then just the sheer amount of toxic materials that they were trying to take care of because of what happened, was just a lot to deal with. So there's a lot of health effects that can come from this. You know, we see the smoke and yeah, that's there, but when that goes away, there are still those things out there when we disrupt the ash and stuff that's left from behind.
I just wanted to follow up on something that Jonathan said, when he talked about the financial impact, but there's also the behavioral and the mental health piece of this, the anxiety and stress that are associated with the disruption of a wildfire. And I think one of the biggest ways to combat that is to prepare for it. And so to be prepared, do everything you can to harden your home, to make sure that you're prepared. So it's not an if, but when type of scenario that we may have, especially in the environment in which we live. So preparation will really help offset the impacts, particularly on the mental health side and the behavioral health side.
I was gonna just say, Heather, do you, we probably have some time for a couple of questions, but Heather, anything to add from my standpoint?
I think, to their point, planning is everything, right? To have that plan, even if it's just not just an evacuation plan, understanding what you and your family would do, because you're not always all gonna be together when it happens, right? So is there a meetup place, go bags, all of those, different things to consider, pets, livestock, have a plan in place. It is important, personal experience, and we got really, really lucky, but that fire that came down by Daniels, 5-6 years ago now, I had horses boarded over there. I was out of state at the time, and so it was a lot of frenzy trying to figure out who could I get to go rescue my horses, and unfortunately, for us, it was too late. We couldn't get in there anymore to get them out, but thankfully, the fire retardant from the planes, you know, it made that a non-issue for us, but it is important to have a plan in place.
So we have time for a couple of questions. Anybody have any questions?
I don't need one.
Okay.
Okay. It's for, the chief or for Jeremy, but I've had a few small communities come to me and ask about then like an alarm system, like if they could put something out with an alarm. There's a fire in their community and they want to put an alarm system out so people can hear that, know that that's a fire. Is that a good way to engage the public or engage your neighbors and let them know that there's a fire?
So we have our emergency notification system is Everbridge, and so that's the tool that we would use to notify people of it, of the pending wildfire or any emergency. We have worked together to develop, if you go to our emergency management webpage at the county webpage, you can go on there and we've designated evacuation zones. And so inside of our Everbridge application, we can click on the town of Hideout and notify that town within seconds.
Is that for phone?
It's through phone, it's through text, it's through email, it's through,
So it's all those?
yep, and then we could even go one step further, we could use the integrated public awareness and warning system, where we can touch everybody's phone, without permission.
Okay,
And those are certain circumstances that we have to meet in order to do that. We do that with the leadership, the incident commanders that we have in the room. Those leadership folks will give that command and say, hey, you can do that. So we can make that trigger happen, because we just can't use that iPod network unless we have permission.
thank you.
But the key point with the Everbridge system is that you do have to sign up.
That's what I was,
Yeah, that's one of the key things, and if there is a takeaway, probably several takeaways today, sign up for that alert system. And and especially where you live in this geographical area, I would sign up for Wasatch County and Summit County.
I never thought
Just
that.
because you are almost an island. And you need the notification from both sides, so if it's something from Browns Canyon, if it's something Park City area or something off that side.
Excuse me, sorry, for our recording purposes, could you please use a microphone? I'm so sorry, thank you.
I was just gonna follow up on that question that you had. in California, there's not so a lot of fires. Do you guys use fire watch at all to notify any like throughout Utah, to what California does?
Just explain to me a little bit more about, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
It's a widely used app for homeowners, residents throughout California.
We use Watch Duty.
Watch TV.
That's the app that's pretty commonly used. So we do that app. I know all of us, the first responders all have the paid for version. So we can see that and see what's going on. We can see the winds, we see all those things, and we can see, some very, lack of a better term, growth, impacts of what the fire could potentially do, with that growth and stuff, when we see that, but there are some tools that we do have to help our wildland firefighters. But they have, once the incident command team is established in that, they are on the phone with the weather service and we are getting those current updates immediately. They're pulling that data right from the National Weather Service about anything situated like that.
Question?
When you say that we can have individual assessment done of our home, is that assessment based on your individual home or your subdivision, or if you happen to have a wall mate, that wall mate, as well?
Originally, it is the taxable structure, so it's your individual home, is what that original assessment. Obviously, if you have a duplex or larger, it's a larger conversation, but the original assessment will be on your structure that you own. Because we need to be invited. We can't just go on someone's property and make an assessment.
So
So,
if we pulled out all the plants and the trees and put stone, all around, and we did everything you said to do, but our neighbors didn't, or our wall mates didn't.
yes, you will get credit for that, but obviously.
Not full credit.
They will not. And again, this is on an individual homeowner basis, but what we want to stress is in order to maybe reduce the community's risk with that entire score of that hazard assessment area, it's gonna have to be a whole group or a community-wide effort. One individual homeowner is not gonna be able to move the needle enough, but you're gonna be able to benefit your particular structure. And those of you that are in duplexes and other configurations of homes, you need to work together. And that's gonna be almost an HOA trying to help with that process.
I think one thing to think about with that though, is preparedness starts with me. You know, it starts with me at my level as a citizen of this great community, you know, this great county. It starts right here. And so if I start preparing, my neighbors start preparing, and it grows. And when you see that grow, it's gonna switch the needle the chief just alluded to. That's what's gonna change what we do. So collectively, you know, if we need to help a neighbor, great, but it starts with me, and that's those mitigation efforts. That's where we fix those.
Since we're talking about development and new developments and existing developments, do you guys get involved in looking at landscape plans for these new developments now?
Yes, it is, since you are in the wildland urban interface, it is one of the requirements that those landscape plans have to be submitted for review by our prevention team.
Are those reviews available to us that are residents, so we can look and see, you know, what the comments were, or how we can harden things a little better?
Individual, and someone else's plan,
No, the HOA, just the general, they're usually for the HOAs. And our HOA is not turned over, we're still in development, so the declarant has that. But we have not been able to see a lot of those, and we are very concerned because we want to do our part. Because at the end of the day, it benefits us as well as our.
and that's a really good point. What's really happening right now is there's almost this paradigm shift of how we approach landscape. Because before was how many trees we could add and, you know, all these things we could do, but all of a sudden. We're finding out through best practices and what's the best approach that we need to do more with less and kind of keep it as natural as we can. But again, trying to provide for that defensible space. And it's almost changing our mindset of what landscape needs to be.
Questions? And on the HOAs, kind of these two questions, Kevin. The HOAs usually underwrite the whole policy for the exteriors, so that's, you know, from an insurance standpoint. And from personal knowledge, that's where you go, and that's where you negotiate. And I would think that if the HOAs have a weak link or a few weak links within that group, they're gonna have to get those kind of fixed and improved, because the weak links are gonna affect the insurance price of the entire HOA. So consider all that as you're thinking about dealing with insurance companies. Each of the homeowners, you know, providing your own insurance, but the big number is where the big increase is now around the external building. Mike, put the thousand.
I've been thinking about this a lot with Heber City now is really growing into the mountains of sites with Jordan L Ridge and Coyote and North Village. My first question is for the councilman. You said 10 foot from the trees, but is that any part of a tree or the trunk? How do you measure that?
Sure. So what we did is we recently amended our town code. And we didn't want to affect existing plants and structures yet. And at this point in time, we just said, if you have anything combustible within 5 feet of your foundation, you can leave it there, just can't refresh or replace it. Same thing with plants. Trees, the measurement is from the trunk. And so now the branches, you have to think about that. If the branches reach up against your structure, you're not doing yourself any good.
No.
If you have a tree that comes up and touches your structure, you're just, you know, I defer to the chief on this, but it seems to me that's just a route for fire. Get into your property.
Yeah, basically, it's gonna be from whatever, you need to understand where that tree's gonna grow.
Oh, yeah.
The edge of the branch. It's gonna be within that 10 feet.
So there's gotta be evolving best practices. And as a city, I think we should be aware of those, and we probably should be working more closely with you to develop our codes for those areas.
Yeah, there are some really good studies out there, and obviously, we're gonna get beginning, at the Forestry Fire and State Lands is developing this new assessment model. But obviously, there's been assessment tools out there, whether they're Firewise and other very similar to that. Utah State University did a wonderful study a number of years ago on Firewise landscaping. And I really think that with these development review committees and these architectural review committees, we really need to start looking at those best practices. And some have been around a while, but again, changing our mindset, changing our paradigm of what the landscape is and how to best live with it. So we really need to meet with the planners and developers on kind of moving the needle and changing how we look at landscape.
Thanks.
Mike. Brian, you'll be the last question.
So the intersection of water use and landscaping is something that I'm interested in. And since I think at least 2024, this new hybrid Bermuda grass has been approved in the state of Utah, which requires very little water. It's like 3 times a year. And what I've read is that sometimes it's better for landscaping around here where we've got some natural dry sort of straw-like grass that grows like a foot high. It's very flammable, very combustible, for this Bermuda grass would not be. Is that something we should be considering as part of our HOA landscaping plans? Maybe we should be saying that it should allow some grass. It doesn't use a lot of water, that is less combustible. So that's the way you guys are looking.
So I think one thing from an emergency management perspective is you want to have the least amount of combustibility, as Jonathan's said, within that area of your home. You've got the 5 feet, you've got 10 feet with trees. So what you can do to have those materials that are in there and that vegetation that is less likely to be combustible, then that's gonna be the thing. There are approved non-combustible vegetation, not non-combustible, but they are less combustible. And it reduces that risk to you and to your home, your structures, as well as your neighbors. So looking at all those things and making sure those are part of your plan would be very helpful.
And again, some of these studies out there that talk about drought tolerance and also fire resilience, landscaping, there is a House bill being pushed. I don't know if it's 145?
House Bill 215.
215 is talking about this drought tolerance and fire resilience landscape. So it is being addressed. Obviously, we're firefighters, we're not horticulturists, and we don't really understand, but we do know what burns, and we're trying to, again, move the needle a little bit on what the best approach is, so we can maintain the beautiful landscapes, and this is why we live here, but again, trying to live within this wildland reserve.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. We're so pleasure, our and Jonathan, thanks so much for all your insights and to the chiefs and back at home here, we appreciate it. For getting better. This whole wildfire. So thank you. So we will take a 10-minute break and we will come back and you'll have to put up with me for a good bit in terms of where the town's going.
That's my understanding. Yes, set up their boards. Absolutely, yeah. It's a serious, wherever you can find a spot.
Times.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, we'll need it.
Yep.
There's a couple on each table, there's like over there, like. That's fine. Carol? I am not Carol, she'll be back here, she's not out there. Yeah. What is your name? I'm Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Hi. Hi. It is, yeah, there's Misha. Yeah, so nice to meet you. Very much. Hello. Yeah, what excited, Sarah. I don't know. Yes, I did. Yeah. So that would be a good time. Thank you. Down far. No. Okay, no. I know. I love that. So where are you? I know it's right. Yeah.
Oh, they don't.
Sign in again.
Hold on a second. I'm Maria. Right. It's down. Oh, no, you're great. Yeah. And that's all. They were right. Hold on. We do. And sorry. I'm so tired. Sharita, can you go up and tell Lynn's up there? Tell her, say, can you give her one of those? Yeah, she's on the carrying a chair. Sorry, yeah, you're good. So if you can fill up now, yes. Let's go ahead and talk to her. Ellen is running around where she's over there. She's got a green shirt on. Here, okay, she's in the back. Say hi. Thank you.
There's one more.
And we didn't even go into contact with our mouse, the neighbor, was a friend.
You okay?
You're fine. Right.
I'm at the table. And you're welcome to stay up for night. He was very nice.
Like,
Just the hideout logo, yeah. No, I put it on there as an option, but. And to add to that. Oh, no. I'm not interested. No. If I do, I should agree to that. Presentation, yeah. There you're.
yeah, so next time you're back. All right. That sounds great. They travel together.
Oh, no. Because I was gonna say, you feel like this is good. Okay. Yeah. We can make sure everybody. Here, just.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
No, it's.
I have one more.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I just talked to some. Yeah. No, we can take this every day.
We know how
Yeah, they're great.
Getting organized here. Well, good afternoon. I would say some friends and some neighbors and some community partners I see across the room. Thanks for spending your time this afternoon. We just got done with two terrific panels. We had a workshop with the council, planning commission, and some of the staff, and, you know, we talked about our first panel, which was transportation, which is a major issue in town. It's a major issue in the state, major issue in our region, particularly from what we know is gonna happen in the next 8 years in the Buck-City area and across the state. So, and then we had Wildfire panel here with some high chairs. Some of you were here, but that was all about our ability to address issues at the town and issues at an individual basis, deal with protection of your home, your family, your goods, your loved ones, your pets, and getting hopefully even better, some insurance rates going to be solved. So that's what occurred previously. I'm gonna walk you through some of the pieces of the town priorities for the next year or longer. So, there's not gonna be any questions at this point. This is not like a town hall. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what we're doing there. I don't want any questions anyway, so, but seriously, afterwards, we will have a social gathering here. And, you can ask the council, you can ask myself, and ask the planning commission, or ask the staff questions about anything you hear. So, be prepared for that. One other point of reference here is on the tables, I believe, in some of the tables, we didn't have enough handouts. These are the slides, PowerPoint, but I didn't want, you know, we call this in the biz death by PowerPoint. So I didn't really want to just do PowerPoint. I wanted to walk you through, and I'll start my kind of address here in a second. So, but the address and the PowerPoint slides, they follow kind of what I'm going to reference them as we go along. And there's things in here regarding the budget, who we are, and these are some of the points I'm bringing in. So they're on your desk, and you can use them as we kind of go as we move along. Any questions? So thanks for gathering here today. It means a great deal together as a community to reflect on where we've been, what we've accomplished in the past year, and how far we've come, and looking ahead with confidence to where we're going. Over the past year, Hideout has continued to grow and evolve, but more importantly, we have come together with a clearer sense of purpose, direction, and identity. I'm honored to stand before you as your mayor to share our progress, our priorities, and our path forward for 2026 and beyond. So I mentioned the PowerPoints, we're gonna pass that. So let me introduce this wonderful town. Hideout may be small, but we're large in character and capacity. We have about 1,500 full part-time residents, over 900 stores or homes, and about 620 registered voters. We're home to accomplished professionals businessmen, businesswomen, physicians. It really is an amazing group of people. You are the town. It's just so impressive with the backgrounds of the folks in this town, and I'll talk more about that later. And, you know, this is the engaged group of folks. You're here to listen, to participate. So we're also unique in the way we have our HOA. We have 8 different HOAs, I think some are about 18 right now. We have a central HOA. We have a master development agreement, of which I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it says. So, we're all navigating through this complexity of, how the town started, some of the legal arrangements, and how we manage between the town, our HOAs, the master MDA. I think we're still learning some of this and trying to figure our way out through it. We're beginning to get strong regional partnerships, and our town operates with a pretty lean and effective organization. So we have about a $2.2 million budget. So in comparison, our city has a $100 million budget. So this is a scale difference. Okay, but one thing we do have to, which I think separates us from the rest, and that's the quality of people in our town. So you're the folks that really drive our town forward in the future. And I think there's a lot of towns that really support what we do. So Hideout is supported by a staff of employees and consultants of about 20 overall. I'd like any of our staff and consultants and advisors to stand up, be recognized. Hideout did not function without this team. And let me call out our elected officials from the town council. The town council members, please stand up and be recognized. Sure. And our planning commission, when we stand up, I see 3 sitting at the same table. Okay. All I can say is thank you all for your hard work. And it's just not me. I think everybody should appreciate how much time you take away from your family, everything you do. And really deserve, all the accolades that should be getting. But Hideout's more than numbers and structure. It's a connected community defined by collaboration, stewardship, and shared responsibility. And our guiding principle is simple. We will position Hideout for long-term success, for a balanced, win-win-win approach for our residents, our partners, developers, and businesses, and our regional partners alike. That principle drives everything we do. In 2026, our work will focus on 4 clear priorities. First, economic development and fiscal responsibility. That's pretty fundamental to any government organization. Second, public safety, infrastructure, transportation, and community resilience. Third, strengthening community identity, brand, and resident satisfaction. And fourth, what we're going to get to after this, and I hope folks will stay around for the general plan update. So those are 4 things we're concentrating on. And you know what, I need a drink of water here, so can someone grab me some water? Thanks. There's a lot to this, and I'm sure I'm gonna be driving after ready. So we're gonna start things. So we're gonna start with fiscal responsibility and economic development. And the economic part brings opportunity and it brings responsibility. And our job is to manage wisely with a vision. So our key projects include Silver Meadows at Richardson Flat, Wild Horse, Rock Creek, Elkhorn, and additional future opportunities that represent increased long-term financial stability for Hideout. At the same time, we are addressing several challenges. Yeah, you're probably familiar with this one. Legal costs have placed a heavy burden on our budget. One lawsuit has been resolved, three remain. These steps we have been taking are all about restoring stability, transparency, and trust. I'm looking forward to sharing further news on all these fronts in the future. We also remain committed to responsible budgeting. And I want to be honest with you here. There may be some legal outcomes and other budget pressures. You may have to make adjustments accordingly. I think we have to all be straight shooters on this, so we'll determine that as we go along. There's no sense in putting things under the rug. Those things could happen when we set out by suits and move the town forward. We'll do the best we can. All of our decisions will be made openly, responsibly, and with full public engagement. So let me say a few words about our budgeting and our fiscal situation. As many of you know, we're in Q3 of our budget year, which ends on June 30th. And our budget runs, I mentioned, about $2.2 million. It's been growing as the town's been growing, like last year was about 1.8. So we're on that trajectory, more homes, more businesses. We're just beginning to get those. That's gonna drive revenue. Property taxes are usually a big percentage, and they're basically a huge percentage of Hideout because we don't have any commercial yet. And I always consider property taxes as something they call a zero-sum game. So really in business, that's when it's a net neutral. So it really doesn't give us much money to move with, but it balances our budget and balances our ins and outs. Not enough to grow and improve on. We need that commercial expansion. So that's where that Silver Meadows comes in and these other areas that I talked about. Increasing sales tax for most small towns is the way to achieve financial independence and have a steady stream of income to invest in parks and trails, community centers, and recreational amenities. All the things that we desire in Hideout. Another potential funding source going forward in this next year, which we haven't really mined as well as we should, is grant funding. So grant funding can come at the state, it can come at the counties, it can come at the federal level. And we're gonna focus on that as another means of income to support our growth in the future. So on the reverse side of the ledger, our expenses have been dominated, as I mentioned, by legal outlays, which we're working to decrease and potentially eliminate entirely. We've made some recent progress, and I'm hoping in the year to come to see more legal issues definitively resolved and put to bed. Over time, resolving these protracted legal fights should help us preserve more revenue, doing more great things for our town. So since being elected mayor, and I started in May, but that was as interim mayor, I think I've really, was really moving things forward after I was elected, because I really didn't know exactly where my position was until November. And so I've been prioritizing, hard to say here, a focus on certain building blocks for what we will accomplish in the future. For example, I've been having regular meetings with the team at the Larry H. Miller Real Estate Group to discuss the Silver Meadows Richardson Flats project. UDOT to discuss increasing traffic safety in our community. And the Wasatch County's Sheriff's Department regarding public safety for Hideout. I'm also meeting regularly with our regional mayors and county councilors to explore opportunities to partner on. These individual and group meetings are essential to understanding the direction of our surrounding communities, as well as where investments are looking regionally. I've now met Mayor Dickey, who is in Italy right now watching the Olympics, so he's in a better situation than we are here. Is that snow? By the way, has it snowed yet outside? So, but in any case, so I think I've been call it friends with our neighboring communities. I've also meet, and had breakfast regularly with the mayors of Camas and Francis, Jeremy Foreman and Matt McCormick. And the benefit there is they can give me backgrounds and information on what happened, the history of this. I'm newer, maybe like a lot of you folks, so I'm still learning. So I try to find the source of the knowledge of people and towns around me. And both of them have been really useful in terms of sharing with me things that you just don't learn in books and newspapers. So going forward, I'm also in regular communication with Hideout's founder and chief landowner, Bob Martino. Mr. Martino's original vision for the town of Hideout and our spectacular views of the Jordanelle and proximity to Deer Valley anchored our town's core vision. While there were differences in the past, I will say that we are trying to write a new chapter. And I would like to say thanks for his recent open dialogue and willingness to work through our legal issues. And hopefully we can emerge more strongly coming out of this. As I reflect on where Hideout has been and the bright future we're planning for, I am absolutely energized by many of the new amenities we will be adding to the town. For example, we recently voted in favor of our first restaurant in town under the project name Wildfire. It will be located between the Claim Development and the fire station on 248. The key individuals behind this project, an upscale restaurant with a phenomenal view of the Jordanelle and Deer Valley. I just can't wait to indulge in some of, the fine cuisine that Tim and Diane are thinking about. Tim and Diane, would you stand up? I'd like to recognize what you're doing. Thank you both. Oh, and by the way, they have some handouts after this, so some pictures and some shareables, let's call it, right? And so, we really look forward to continued participation. So our biggest endeavor going forward, which many of us have been working on for years, including myself, which the community expressed our very strong support for in the 2021 referendum on Silver Meadows, also known as Richardson Flat, in which everyone in Hideout was able to express their opinion and vote. Is our work with the Larry H. Miller Group, I should say Larry H. Miller Real Estate Group, I want to get that right, and to build a world-class development of homes. A commercial space anchored by a grocery store, where we don't have to drive to Prospector and Kimball to buy eggs, milk, and, some basic groceries. So, and hopefully a host of other amenities, which might be, well, we'll get into that now. I want to recognize our friends from the Larry H. Miller Real Estate Group. Is Amanda Covington and Bart Sharp here? Thanks so much for taking the time to be here. We talk on a regular, bi-weekly basis. Thanks so much for your partnership. This is going to be an outstanding world-class development, and I think we're all just chomping at the bit is the way I would call it, to get this started. I'll be out there with a shovel as soon as we do. I'd also like to recognize May Brockbank, whose project on the Salston property was recently approved. As part of this negotiated agreement, Mr. Brockbank will be putting up several $1 million for work on Ross Creek, where additional commercial and recreational amenities, including community center activities, are envisioned. As many of you know, the town owns about 8 acres at the entrance, and I should say they bequeathed the town those 8 acres when he built their springs or their springs. Thanks. And you just want to. Mr. Brockbank's a noted commodity in town. In fact, he has committed to put 2 Class A signs at either end of town. Am I putting words in your mouth there? And, so we wanna build our brand in the next year. We wanna build a new website. We're going to make a new logo for this town. And, have you seen the signs coming in? Have you seen our current sign, which is falling apart? The lights are falling off. I mean, it's a dangerous hazard. It just doesn't portray who we are in this room to anyone, whether to us or to anyone driving through the town. So that's on the agenda, I think, we should. You know, there's lots of other accomplishments, you can pick up the handout here and go through them. It's not about so much about accomplishments. Accomplishments represent building blocks. And you must establish in a business or in town, or anything you do, whether you're an athlete or not, a basic set of building blocks. And so that's what we're doing at this point. Public safety and transportation are also foundational to the quality of life in Hideout, and another major focus of our work in 2026 and beyond. Working with UDOT, Wasatch County, and regional partners, we're making real progress. In the near term, should have attended the transportation session that we had, which was the first part of the day at 1 o'clock. And that was mostly to the town, but we had some great folks from UDOT, Jeff Dupay was working with us, and it was a lot to learn there. I hope we get to write up something. Well, actually, Gracie Warren, he went there for that, so. But in any case, we're working on adding new acceleration and deceleration lanes and in potentially sensitive areas. And so ingress and egress out of key access points and improving our drainage flows around 248. And in the major projects category, a traffic light and an acceleration lane at Golden Eagle Road and Longview is scheduled for 2026. So along with improvements to the Ross Creek entrance, which we were just talking about before in the transportation group, and that was long-term planning with the alignment and corridor on 248, the long-term alignment of Shoreline Longview Road with Deer Mountain Boulevard, which is across the street. UDOT will not put a light and additional investments on that. They want to see a four-way intersection. So that's our long-range vision. In the meantime, we're looking to add digital signage, regular sign, more frequent regular signs in that area, and then add a deceleration lane coming in from the east side from Park City. So we're working on all three of those things with UDOT right now, and we're working on a study on our longer range plans. Thanks to Jeff Dupay, who is here. I don't know if Jeff is still here. I think he left. And UDOT's engineering team, Grant Farnsworth and Jay Godin. Jan and I have bi-weekly conversations with them. And so that's a little bit about safety, traffic flow, and long-term capacity. We're also increasing our Wasatch County Sheriff visibility, using Town Hall as a satellite office and strengthening our overall public safety presence. As a matter of fact, literally this week, the Wasatch County Sheriff's Office will be using our town hall as their central spot for the 248 corridor coming from Black Rock to Two-Head, which is Wasatch. And that will mean they will have a presence with police, and will have their own separate room and desk. And you'll see a patrol car there on a nightly basis. So we're working and we've offered them that, we worked with the sheriff. So we think getting a more police presence in town will be an improvement for our safety. So at the same time, we're investing in resilience. And resilience to me means infrastructure and services you can depend on. And that's through a number of plans: transportation plan, trails plan, comprehensive emergency management planning, wildfire prevention, which we had just talked about, evacuation planning, and something that the state's requiring, which is cyber preparedness. So preparedness is not optional, it's essential. I'm gonna skip a few things because I'm not, give me a time check on this, because I probably go on past the half hour, Jan, if you would, or Jonathan. One of our achievements over the past 2 years is getting better organized with our emergency management firehouse. I'd like to recognize Councilman Gunn for his work to secure a permanent fire station, which will break ground this year on the property we own on Highway 248. We already have a temporary structure with 24/7 staff that sits on property that was provided free to the town, negotiated, and has already improved our ISO rating, our insurance services office rating, for community protection. That means our rate just improved 2 notches. And when you file for your insurance on your home, your HOA, whatever you're working on, you must make sure you take advantage of that, because that's a significant improvement in your ISO rating. And that ISO rating goes to every insurance company in the United States. So you just have to make sure if you're buying through a broker or an agent, they know that our ISO rating has improved. So if you don't know, a lot of our homeowner rates have skyrocketed. We were just talking at 4 to 6x in the past year to 2. And a lot of that has been, as a result of the LA fires. So that means the insurance market has dried up because they've exhausted the reinsurance market. And this is all financial, but we want to be ahead of the game, both with wildfire prevention and improving our scores for ISO so that we can get better underwriting results. Translating, you'll get easier access to insurance and lower rates. I'd like to actually recognize, besides Jonathan, who did the yeoman's work on getting the fire station here, to our wildfire risk mitigation committee, which was organized by both Jonathan and myself, but is really spearheaded by 2 individuals today, Dr. Steve Allen and Lauren Major. They couldn't be here, but is there anyone else? Is there anyone else from the wildfire committee? This is a really active committee. In any case, so our achievement, so let me just, need to get my other document. So I do want to, my last point there, sorry for that brief intro. So, I'm realizing I have to take out my, other document here. Yeah. My iPad didn't catch everything. I do have paper. Well, we're getting to the end anyway. I wanted to recognize some folks, but I've already recognized them, actually, and that were the chiefs of the Wasatch Fire Department, who also participate on our wildfire committee. That's Chief Hales, Chief Morgan, and Chief Nearing. I think they've left. Those are the last 3 people I really wanted to give credit for, and everyone in this room really just, owes a debt of gratitude to these folks, because they're doing the risk assessment and they will fight the wildfires when they come in, or any fire in any emergency. So let's go on. I've got a couple more things to say. So let me talk about something just as important as infrastructure, and that's identity. We're building more than roads and plans. We're building a community. Our goal is simple: to build pride being a hideout. This means creating a stronger town identity beyond individual HOAs. It means refreshing our brand logo and tagline. It means modernizing our website, improving communication, expanding newsletters and alerts, and growing community events. And maybe just possibly bring more music and entertainment into our 2026. How many people attended last year's one event that we had in August? Oh, good number. So we'd like to do more. We'd like to have some more town events. You know, those kinds of things create unity and direction. And so the last direction I've seen in the town was when we all got behind the Richardson Flat referendum. And let's see what we can do in the future. So it means building our services around quality, listening to our residents and surveying our community. We'll probably be doing some more surveys. So next up is our general plan update. And today's update focuses on finalizing policies and maps for trails, pedestrian connectivity, and transportation, ensuring full alignment between the general plan and our transportation plan. Most importantly, it continues our commitment to community engagement. Because this plan should reflect your voice, your values, and your priorities. One of the most important core competencies of Hideout, and I'm using a business expression here, is our intellectual capital. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Look around at your fellow attendees. And think about your neighbors' professional backgrounds, their education, their family values, and their professional endeavors. It's quite incredible, the scope of the capabilities of our town. We've all lived in different towns across this great country, and I reflect quite often on the ability to live here and have such accomplished neighbors in Hideout. This is one of our core building blocks or competencies, as I mentioned. If we can further harness the capabilities of our town's residents, I expect we'll even be a greater success. So I'm always looking for residents who want to volunteer and have a few extra minutes on their hands to share their expertise with our town. It's good to have paper. General plan update. This year, the fourth important area of focus for us will again be to finalize the update. If you have time, I hope you'll stick around for the session following this. And I think Thomas Eddington, our town planner, is going to introduce this, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. And I really want to thank everyone from our town staff, committee volunteers, planning commissioners, and town council who have contributed so much of their time to help us with our general plan update. So one last item I'd like to cover is kind of how we tie this together. And I'll be working to incorporate what they call quality best practices into Hideout. At one time in my career, I volunteered and was accepted as a Malcolm Baldrige Award examiner for the state of New Jersey. If you don't know what that is, it's a program that started in the 80s and focused on customer service and quality for commercial organizations and municipalities. Actually, Malcolm Baldrige was President Reagan's Commerce Secretary, and the award was named after him. But so many different companies over the past 40 to 35 years have won that award, from IBM to AT&T. So quality companies that believe in building quality customer service. So I also had the recent honor of working for Amazon, one of the world's renowned companies known for its customer service. For towns, at least, our customers are you, our residents. So that's our basic premise here. So I'm making a commitment that starting with myself, we will also look at your comments and input on how we can be more responsive to you, our customers. To that end, I've heard from many of you about the importance of these four focus areas I mentioned earlier. To reiterate, they are economic development, public safety, infrastructure, transportation, community, identity, brand, and resident satisfaction, and finally completing our general plan. I believe these are the four items that are critical to our success in 2026 and beyond. So let me close with this. Our commitments are clear. We will protect our views, our environment, and our natural beauty. We will manage growth responsibly. We will use economic strength wisely. We will overcome past challenges with transparency and resolve. And we will build a real sense of community, identity, and pride in Hideout. 2026 is a year of progress, a year of defining who we are. Thank you to our residents, trust, and engagement. Thank you to our staff, volunteers, partners, and committee vendors for your dedication. Thank you to the town council for your leadership and shared commitment. The state of our town and Hideout is strong, and together we will make it even stronger. Thank you, and God bless Hideout. So with that, we will start on our, should we take a, do we need a 5-minute break? How about a 10-minute, or how about a 10-minute break? And then we'll start on our general plan. And thank you for putting up with me on that. Going back and forth between my iPad and the two pieces of paper. I really appreciate all your attendance here. I mean that sincerely. And I look forward to getting to know every one of you better as we go together. Thank you.
So, what we do, let me see. Take that on, see if we can talk to you. Hang on, talk to you. Even the mayor just. No. They did, on the high side. That's how we do it right now. It will Also, I think copy it says plan and Derek has it. Oh, and we'll also, I think. It's not really.
So, here's the list. Yeah. Yeah, just make Kenny was for. Give you those, right? Make some later for you, Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah, let me do that. There's something coming out that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carol and. Yes, yes. There should be a little.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're just gonna. I have the chart. All right, well, so what do you, there's one actually. Okay, but any of those. Yes. So, certain ice, I
Starting in 5 minutes, if you want to grab some snacks. Get a drink.
Wow. That's what we saw for or marketing strategy. I'm gonna go. Great, I've got a lot for you. Yes.
Hi. So I realized. And Seriously, sorry. I know. Like every time I. Not gonna do this. I'm gonna have.
Yeah. There's always like, right there.
You're telling me chairs. So, I think you need 5. It's fine. I'm sure you get back. That's fine. Don't think about it. So I'm sorry. Okay, that's good. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Thank you so much.
First half, and past the 10. Dan, what do you want them? Hi. Sorry. They're different. What about the comments? I think it's kind of say, I don't, no, that's not for you.
Then we're gonna reconnect. Maps look great. No, it's like everything, yeah. I just love that part. What happened? Like, I mean,
You guys, it's time to keep your seats. I'd like to know, so we get started. We have about a 30-minute presentation, so please start.
Yeah. Grab that.
We're gonna get started, if you don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be started on your seat. Okay, thanks again for coming out today. My name is Thomas Eddington. I'm the town planner for Hideout. It's great to see so many of you back out to join us. We had the first community kickoff was in September, so this is our second round. What you see on many of these posters is a bit of a combination of what we put at the last meeting. I'll let Jake introduce how that was done, kind of walk through these plans and kind of what the proposal is for tonight in terms of an outline. Again, he's estimating about a 30-minute presentation, and then you have an opportunity to provide input on these boards. So with that being said, thanks again for coming out. The general plan is super important for the community. It really does help shape our future. It helps shape the future of the community in terms of not only land use and planning, but also in terms of economic development, general direction for the community. So that being said, turn it over to Jake Young with City Design, the consultant working on the plan, and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Thomas. Great to be here. Okay. So my name is Jake Young, city planner. Happy to be working here. I love Hideout. I love coming out here. It's such a beautiful area. And growing up, my uncle had the McDonald's in Park City, and every summer I'd actually come flip burgers and go mountain biking. That was my high school gig. So I love coming to this territory. It's great to be here following up on your town council meetings, your planning commission, the workshops that you had today, the retreat, and also the mayor's state of the city. I love that. I think every city should do that. Do town planning, state of the city, and then go right into a general plan. That's wonderful. I want to introduce my team. We have Robert May back there, Abby Wyatt, and then Sophie Friedrichs. They're going to be helping us when we get to the poster session, and then also Thomas. So this is what we're gonna cover tonight, introductions on the team, just introduce the team. We're gonna talk a little bit about the process today, where we've been, and then where we're going. Also, we're gonna go over the survey that was done last fall. And then we're gonna talk about the main ideas, what are the big ideas of the general plan? I want you to come away with understanding what is the direction of this effort, and then also we want your input. This is at a draft mode, and so this is a great time for you to come out, provide input on the town. And then following, as part of that, we'll have the poster session. I love as soon as we put up the posters and the maps, everybody just went right to them. Patiently talking, looking at the maps, and then we'd like your feedback tonight with the survey. So, this is our team. John was sick. Remember, John from last fall, he has the beard and a lot of experience. He's sick today, so couldn't make it. But thank you to our team for being here. Also just want to recognize the mayor and the council and the planning commission for all the good work and the growing community that you are. So, just a reminder to kind of go over what is a general plan. Maybe new to some, I'm sure a number of you have seen it before, but it's required by the state that every city have a general plan. In other states, they call them comprehensive plans, but in Utah, the legal term is general plan. It is an advisory document, meaning the city doesn't have to follow it by the letter of the law. It's a guiding document, but not exactly the letter of the law like your city ordinances. It really causes us to look forward, think about where do we want to be. The typical horizon for a general plan is 15 to 20 years. That's the typical horizon of general plan. And as part of that, we want to look at trends, how do we want to shape, and what are the big issues. There are 4 required topics for the general plan: housing, land use, and transportation. Those are the 3 ones, and then water is added on as well for bigger cities. So this is the town hideout, which we're here, and a unique shape that will continue to evolve. And then it's nice to understand who our neighbors are. So we have Park City to the northwest. The town is unique in that it's in Wasatch County and Summit County. And then we have Heber City to the south and US 40 to the west and Highway 248. This is something I shared last fall. And this is the same, same slide from before. And I just bring this up again because I wanted you to kind of see it if you haven't before. And just a reminder that these are the number of the permits issued were from last year. And also the remaining platted lots, the 667. And what we're really looking at in terms of what has already been entitled or approved is a population, looking at 7,400. Meaning all of the lots that have been approved, if they were built out, that's where we would be. It's just a good idea to get this number. It's not, I don't think it's exactly up to date, but I think it's worth sharing and understanding of that. So as Thomas mentioned, we had a workshop last fall, September 25th. How many came to that workshop? See a number of hands, and I recognize a lot of faces. Thank you for coming. It was a wonderful workshop right here in basement of Black Rock Hotel. And as part of that workshop, we presented some data on how Hideout is growing, the demographics, looking at the income, the household, how the community's grown over time. And then we broke out in session making maps. And this picture on your right is from our workshop. Folks had nice big, large maps, and we were looking at land uses and trails and transportation, transit. And then also some ideas like a water taxi or gondolas, and there was just a lot of creativity and energy in that. And from that, 10 different maps were created, looking at the general plan, the big picture of Hideout. And so what we did is we took all of those maps and then we met as a team, we met with town staff, elected officials. We looked at the maps, we discussed them, we analyzed them and started to break them down into different ideas and different schematic concepts. And what you're looking at came from that. And one thing that was a little bit unique about Hideout is that we saw a lot of the ideas were very similar. There wasn't a lot of big differences. And these are some of the main themes that came from that workshop. View and open space preservation, trail access and trail connections, safe highway pedestrian crossings, commercial areas like the town center or having other commercial areas that you don't have to just drive into Park City or Kimball Junction or Camas, that we can have low or more services closer. Also wildlife crossing, not wanting to get hit, having cars hit, deer, but also for their protection and they're going down the reservoir or moving through the area. Community centers, gathering places such as parks and plazas and things to do with being together. Also this idea of fostering development, something you're already doing, but looking at continuing to do. And then also looking at transportation, having more shuttles, transit stops, and a better connectivity to Park City. Following that, we had a survey. How many took the survey? Oh, a lot of hands, love it, thank you so much. Really good participation. 269. I've had bigger cities, much bigger cities, that we didn't get these kind of numbers. So that's fantastic. It was approximately 9 minutes. And those who started at 83% completion rate, which is really high. And then it was open for 2 months. So I'm gonna run through the survey. I think you'll find it interesting. It's not that long. Looking at number of residents, who lives here full-time, who's part-time, 40%, 47%. So a good mixture in terms of who is here full-time and then visiting frequently. Looking at age group, a lot of experience in Hideout. Yes, we don't need we don't need elementary schools, and we certainly don't need junior, we don't even need a college. Certainly a lot of experience. I love it. And one word or phrase, what do you like best about living or visiting Hideout? Proximity to activities, to outdoor recreation, community, and views and location. I think that summarizes, people can really highlight what are the big things of Hideout. In one word or phrase, what do you like least? So if we could change one thing about living or visiting Hideout: environment, cleaning up the pond area, narrow roads with dangerous connections, residential expansion, increased density. It is a growing town. We've seen that with the numbers and the approved plan, and is a desirable area. Construction, I know it's nonstop. You probably hear it, certainly see it when you drive, and it's happening all the time. And then distance from amenities and services. Everything looks close, but it actually takes longer to get there, is what I'm realizing. How important is public access to outdoor recreation? Very important. You'll see that, and that's the big part of the pie. And then also important, and with a few minorities that it's unimportant or very important. What recreation activities do you engage in most? Downhill skiing, and then hiking. That's a summer activity and winter activity. I love that, especially that we're in the Olympic season right now. And then on there's a number of water sports with the lake so close. And then also winter sports, hoping that winter does come back. But certainly a very active community. We want to know, how often do you go or visit or interact with Jordan now? Quite a bit, weekly, monthly, some even daily. And then everybody's sitting in almost a few times a year. And so looking at that connection to Jordan now is very important as we plan the town. How often do you eat out? Most are in this weekly range, with a few daily and then a few monthly, and then a small minority just a few times. So certainly restaurants is an important part of the planning. We want to know, where do people grocery shop, or where are you going for those daily needs? Park City at 76%, and then if you go to Beaver, if you go to Camas, and then you do another, and of course, everybody's probably using Amazon and other online services. How important is providing housing choices for a variety of household sizes? Some it's very important, and then we get into 31% important, 47% unimportant. Meaning, we certainly have a mixture of views on this. And some want to say, let's just keep Hideout the way that it is, and then a small minority, 90%, very unimportant. How important is providing housing choices for a range of household incomes? It matches very close to the previous slide. 6% very important, almost 30% important, 48% unimportant, and then the 15% very important, or excuse me, very unimportant. What uses would you hope to see in the town center, commercial area, grocery store, number one, restaurants, and then also gym, retail, and gas station, and then that activity or park or plaza. So this is very helpful as the town works with Larry H. Miller Development Group in terms of planning that and bringing that to life. Looking at transportation, and this was a ranking question to see what would you like to see bring. Number one, more walking and biking and trail connections throughout into the foothills to the reservoir and then from neighborhood to neighborhood. Safe highway crossings coming in at number two. Number three, enhanced transit service to Park City for Heber. The signalized highway intersections, adding those 3 additional highway intersections. And then 5 additional connected streets off the highway, but from neighborhood to neighborhood and avenues. And then wrapping up this part, any additional comments or suggestions, what are that open dialogue, concerns about overdevelopment, protecting the environment, becoming a more self-sufficient community, having services and jobs and daily needs met, addressing the traffic. That's a very big one. And then some comments on short-term rentals and then demand for grocery store, gas station, retail. And I really like this in the bottom, desire for social and recreational and community amenities. People want things to do or places to come together. And then better coordination and transparency with town leadership, and the mayor discussed that in the previous meeting. So with all of that, we moved right into what does this mean and how does that look in the general plan draft? And we moved into these maps. And the maps are very important, but they connect to ideas, land uses, future recommendations with your ordinances, your transportation planning. When you talk with UDOT, when you have adopted plans, you say this means a lot to us. And so these are the 3 kind of main categories. We have future land uses. And the future land use in the planning world, it sits at this higher cloud above zoning. So future land use is where do we want to go when someone buys the land? They want to do an application, they want to change their use. Where should that be going in the future? Not necessarily where it is today, but where should that be going in the future? It's also a little bit more broad than zoning. Zoning is specific. And within a future land use area or category, there could be a number of different zoning types. And then active transportation and open space. We put those 2 together because the idea is whether you're biking or walking, that you may be going to the reservoir or to a park or to an open space. And then transportation looks at roads and transit together. Gonna do a little bit deeper dive. Now, our first recommendation that we're at now is changing the annexation boundary. And Hideout does have a rather large annexation boundary. This is the town boundary here in the middle, the red. So you can identify that. And then the pink is the current annexation boundary. And some of the changes are removing what is now in Park City. So a few years ago, you had your annexation boundary, Park City had theirs, and then they annexed that land. It's now part of Park City proper in their town boundary. And so there's no reason for it to be in the Hideout annexation. And then we've made a couple of recommendations along Highway 40. You'll see that in the dark purple up there. And so that, and as we look at future land use and transportation in the general plan, you look at the annexation boundary, so the city boundary, but then also looking at the annexation boundary is important, and you'll see that in the maps and what we discussed tonight. I wanted to bring this up. This is something that Tom's put together last year, master plan communities and development agreements. These are communities that are already approved in Hideout. All of you live in them or you own units in them, whether it's your first home or a second home. One thing that's a little bit unique about Hideout is most of the development is within a master plan community that has a development agreement. And when those legal agreements are made with the town, they're set in stone. And it essentially becomes just like zoning ordinances. And so with the general plan, what we have to do is look at how can we work with these agreements and how can we make the town better, but still honor those agreements to keep it safe legally. Okay, so these are some of the main land use ideas. And and you're gonna see ideas and concepts that have come from you. And almost everything on here that we've seen has come from residents, either in the survey or the workshop or other methods. The first one is neighborhood centers and mixed use center along Highway 248. And those are along the town, and I'll point those out in just a minute. And so we have the commercial area that we're in now, and this area of Black Rock Hotel, while it's not in the town boundary, is in the annexation area. And the idea is that if the hotel and the surrounding commercial wanted to come into Hideout, then that could happen through a process. The town center is a major idea. A lot of cities or towns, when they do a general plan, if they don't have a town center, then they're starting from scratch. Identifying an area, talking to landowners, talking to developers, this is something that you already have. And you have a good location in terms of it by the highways, there's multiple access points to it. And so that's something that we can build on. Development connections, US 40. This plan looks at how can we connect to 40 as well as 248. Conservation on the perimeter and foothills. You'll see that on the maps. Wildlife corridors from Jordanelle to the foothills. Our understanding is that the state Division of Wildlife Resources does not have these wildlife corridors on their maps. And so we want to get them on the Hideout maps and then take them to the state and start working with them on how we can get these wildlife connections. And then build out of existing approved master plan communities. That is something that is going to happen, and as they build out, getting those amenities, getting those connections, and filling in the gaps. And then, as I just went over, the proposed annexation boundaries. So here's some of the main ideas. Commercial area, where we are here in Black Rock Hotel and the commercial across the highway. Neighborhood centers, one at the Ross Creek area, another one on 248, and then also a bigger mixed use center down across from 2A. That's part of the development that was just approved down on that part. So this is a major idea. This came from the workshops and also the surveys. They're not to just have one commercial area in terms of the town center, but multiple so that you can have services and retail closer. The town center, this is bringing in what was already approved, but making it fit with the general plan, fit with the surrounding area. And these concepts are that were proposed by the developer when it was approved in the development agreements. And then conservation of the foothills, and the areas in brown have that light tan. We're proposing as mountain conservation, and of course there's details to work out. Does it mean no development? Does it mean very large lots, like 20 acres or 40 acres, but you're not looking at developing them anytime soon? Does it mean working with the landowners to use bonding or conservation agencies to conserve those? But that's the proposed land use. Okay, looking at active transportation, the main ideas, spine trail on Highway 248. That'll essentially be your trail I-15 through the town. A lot of the trails will connect to it. It'll provide a way to get through town. Post plan, as I understand it, is a separated paved pathway. If you want bike and walking or just a number of different options, but off of the freeway so that it feels safe, a little bit quieter and feel comfortable on there. Also, Thomas has been working with Rocky Mountain Power on getting trails and easements. They run through the city and there's a lot of good opportunities for that. On the maps, we have some proposed trailheads, looking at different locations. And then also we have two locations, and I'll show you in a minute, for having vertical separation crossings. And that means it could be above or below, whether it's a tunnel underneath the highway or a pedestrian bridge going over the highway. That's a major goal of the town. And they're not cheap, but UDOT does have resources for that. Where I live in Farmington, they're putting one that connects the station park over to Lagoon, and it's costing millions of dollars, and UDOT's doing it. I think it would certainly be cheaper to do one up here, and so by getting it in the plan and working with UDOT, we can start to work on that. Also, interconnecting trails between developments. You have a number of trails already, but we need more of a network and a system, and the plan is to connect those. And as you look at the trail maps tonight, please tell us, if we're missing where a trail should be or connection, let us know and we'll get those on the trail maps. And then foothill trails, having a place to go up and hike or bike or trail run or whatever you like to do in foothills. Here's some of those examples of the foothill trails and then the Pine Trail on 248. This is a picture I took just a few months ago down in St. George by the Snow Canyon. But just this nice separated pathway. It's on a busy 5-lane highway. Felt super nice and comfortable and it was just fun. And I was thinking this is exactly what we need in a hideout. Also, in terms of active transportation, these are the locations for the vertical separation. You'll have to look a little bit closer when you see them on the map, but the little kind of the aqua color there. Thomas, tell me again those two exact names of those.
Up at the top.
Yeah.
Top is just south of Deer Mountain apartments. And you would cross over, that would be.
And then we got Hideout on that one.
Down here would be those two. South. You'd be almost between Soaring Hawk and Hideout Katie on the other side.
Okay, thank you. So keep those in mind. I know that's important. Also looking at active transportation. Went over these ones. Oh, there's more of the foothills trails. Okay, now I wanted to move into the open space and parks, smaller parks throughout the town. Due to the topography and the cost of land, having a large regional park with lots of soccer fields, the baseball, is really not in the cards for a hideout, but smaller parks with pickleball and maybe some playgrounds and basketball or just things that dog parks, having places that we congregate definitely works. The wildlife crossings, show those in just a minute. And then the town park, near 248 Ross Creek, Town Center Park, that's part of the approved plan with the development agreement with Larry H. Miller, that will have a plaza, lift service trails, also some nice viewpoints at the top of a little mountain there. And then the mountain conservation area that I went over earlier. So the wildlife crossings are these, kind of see right here. There's two of them connecting the foothills down the reservoir. And what's important in planning those is that they're separated from pedestrian and bike crossings. So the deer take one tunnel and the people take something else, and that seems to work best. And then also we have the town center park. Moving on to transportation, transit stops. You have 2 transit stops now in the community, and we're looking at adding more. The Ross Creek intersection, that was mentioned in the previous, there. And then also just, pedestrian crossings, and then stoplights, working with UDOT. That's very important, having that safe way to pull out of the community. Those stoplights also represent good locations for the neighborhood centers, the mixed use center, commercial activity, maybe a little bit more, if you want more attached housing, some denser housing by those making them a center. And then when we met last fall, there was this idea to explore a water taxi, and so that's in the plan. I have it as explore, looking into it, talk to the state park service and see what they think about it. Is there a market for it, what would it cost, feasible? There's a lot of questions on it. So these are the proposed transit stops. You'll see them on the maps. So please take a look and let us know what you think. Certainly at the traffic signals and neighborhood centers. And this is coming from UDOT. So this is the UDOT plan that we've taken into the general plan. The traffic stops are UDOT, and then the transit stops are in the general plan. So this is the traffic signals. We have the one built here at Black Rock, and then the 3 proposed ones by UDOT. And then the yellow intersections are also UDOT intersections, but not a traffic signal. So maybe right in, right out, or you can go back, but it would be a little bit longer wait because you don't have a light. And then some other ideas, the lifts over at the Silver Meadows development for hiking and biking as part of that community, the Ross Creek intersection. And we do have the concept over on these boards, the Ross Creek concept is on there. And then also the water taxi connecting the 2 sides. So with that, we're ready to move right into the poster session. And please give us your input tonight. There's a number of different ways to do that. We have lots of sticky notes and Sharpies. So you can write, just feel free if you don't like an idea or you want to change something or just an idea, write it on the sticky note and stick it right on the map. Also, we have a survey and there's a QR code, and it's the same survey, but the QR code is on all the maps. And so and there's only, with that, there's just, I think 9 questions, not very many. And it's just telling us what you do like or don't like about each of the maps. And actually, I think it's just 6 questions. What do you like about the future land uses? What do you like about open space and transportation? What do you like about, or open space and active transportation? What do you like about transportation? And what do you not like? What do you want to change? So please provide input. And then also talking to the planning team, myself, Thomas, then our planners, as part of the team will be at the posters. So thank you, and we want to hear your input. And so that ends the formal presentation part. The posters. Let us know what you think.
I can't even.
That's right. That's wow.
So anyway. I probably should have. Be back. If it doesn't. But the guy, you know, like, specifically with this company, because I like the radio stuff. They have their preparedness license, so he's out there in the air.
Quick note here, Brian, are you taking the? Okay, here is the.
Yeah.
I told you.
There is a sign on the table close to the door. And, our committee. We have a number of committees and we just for. PowerPoint slide. So you want to sign up? Go for it. And,
Sorry.
Okay, if anyone wants to get on the Wi-Fi. Thank you for. It's like this, she first.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great, right?
Whatever they do. Different than these.
I really got it. So. So Thursday night.
Yeah, what's the one that See, there is probably really easy to it's fine. All the rest of them, we don't have their own. We don't have it. Hey, you see it too. Well, Brett, we'll just.
And staff at that time, it's here, take five. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're awesome. Right guy. All right, guys. Right, the next one. Yeah. This is my part. No, this is.
Nice to meet you. You're right. I'm just trying to say. I showed up.
But the notice is like.
So we just need to. With you. Yes. Yeah, and then all the way bigger. Sounds transferable.
Yeah, it's a fun.
That's what I.
To be like your. If you are, I got it. They don't, I love it. I love it.
Right now, I still. Yeah. But, I think football for people is, here. Well, he's kind of very small. Yeah. All right, bye-bye.
Well, like this guy.
Yeah. I thought you were paying me, when you said, walked out there, I did the same thing. I'm like, whatever, I did.
You know, but you have a lady at the party and that.
There you go. And I'm in, my family's name is, right?
Italian, but I don't qualify.
I keep up with your recipes and people.
Really?
From the-
That was her recipe.
That's a great idea. So he in the newsletter, like the newsletter, like, honestly, you can look at Reddit about that recipe, because you're going, oh.
I think that's the only thing that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, so I should do. Oh, that was, I've never, okay, I'm going to. So maybe.
That's good.
I know. Right. I think we need to have like things.
I can agree.
I know. It would be fun to have it. That would be a cool thing. So now I just pressure you to forget that I missed.
Great job with it.
Very nice. I heard so many good comments about your speech. Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing I got concerned with is kind of the iPad guy.
Yeah. And I said, I thought, yeah. But see, I thought that too, and I would have no idea, but I think that was. And I think you're. And I see like. Oh, you do. I thought they're pretty good.
And I said, I got it. Yeah, like, it's just a big deal. I would even.
Yeah.
I've done enough, and you gotta have paper. You never know what the technical side's doing. All right.
You know who I really, I met today for the first time was Ellen. I like
Oh,
her.
really?
Yeah, I really like her. And I like her because it's all about, you know, like, you shine and I make the shine. I love that. I love that. Yes, she said.
I got a feeling she's good too.
I don't know anything about that, but I want in. And I told her, I said, I would like to meet with her because I said, she knows something. And I said, this whole process. And I said, she said, well, we can do it just like me.
You know.
Mayor was it. I don't know what we're gonna meet about, but let's just start. I think knowledge is power and it's right. And if you're bored. I gave him my.
Every little thing.
What that's okay. I will, because truly, if you catch something and it's just early enough, and honestly,
That's right.
use our
Let him-
process
let
to
him
make it
tell me.
better, I think it's that.
But we're gonna have a little checkoff
Yeah.
to make sure that
We should.
we don't have.
That's fine. Well, and also like, you know, with my deadline, you know, it's, you know, with getting that agenda out, it's out. But we have.
No.
We are online. We'll have it. Wonderful. All right. Give me 3 days or less.
No
Thank you so much. But anyway, so I mean, but it's also, you know, I, you know, how often we change things, so we waited for something, or, you know, like this being nice.
And the big thing is that, get out the agenda, and so we'll work on that. Do a little work backwards from, you know, and then force me to look at it, and we're all signing up. And, if you're gonna edit something, it has to get a resub.
Maybe I can help with music.
How
It's
did
like,
this go, brother?
it's still going good. I mean, it's not, of course, it's okay for now. But, no, I think it was fine. I did learn. But, anyway, so
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But you're right, I think working together, if we can do that, I think that would. That'd be nice, yeah, and you're right, oh, I was saying, it might be nice if like every item, and totally I could help with this if I know about it. Every item, and every single item that the staff report, then I don't think it needs to be complex, and just something about it, and then you have something that everybody can look at, know something about, and then if like an material, like something important and right away. At least you have something, you know.
Appreciate it. This was pretty interesting. Yeah. I know. This was really interesting.
Originally, it all makes sense.
Well, what they.
But hopefully.
No, we got it.
I don't.